Auspicious greetings, everyone. Welcome to the 2021 BLIA North America Cloud Lecture Series. My name is Tina Ho, your MC today from BLIA Houston. We are very excited about today's forum because it's going to be an interesting and interactive one. We have invited a panel to share their life experience and have a discussion on today's topic, My Faith, My Life. Please feel free to grab a cup of tea or coffee and enjoy the talk. For our discussion today on My Faith, My Life, we are honored to invite Jenny Chen, BLIA World Headquarters Youth Development Committee Director, as our host. At the same time, we are honored to invite our speakers, Dr. Kwong Chen, BLIA Lay Dharma Lecturer and Teachers Fellowship Committee Vice Committee Director, Michael Liu, BLIA Chunghua Director, Huijuan, BLIA Singapore Chapter Director, and Roxanna, BLIA Sumati Lecturer. They will be sharing their life stories regarding how having a faith makes a difference in their lives. Also, they will discuss how they integrated Dharma practices into their personal and professional life. It's our great honor to have 5 distinguished guests join us from Asia, America, Australia, and Europe. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Jenny Chen and the panelists.
Thank you. Good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, friends from all over the world. My name is Jenny Chen. I would like to thank you for joining in today for this special forums called My Life, My Faith. We are all gathered here because we are all senior young members. We are grew up in a different time and different places, but we are shared the same faith. Our faith has brought us all together. Today, we are going to share the impact that humanistic Buddhism has in our lives. Master Xing Yun has said, Buddhism teaches that the most important faith is a faith in oneself, to believe in one's potential to attain Buddhahood and to be a good person. Clearly, it is important to have a faith in oneself. Today's forums, Our Life and Our Faith. It can be called Your Life and Your Faith as well. We will hear some amazing story. Are you ready? I'm ready. Let's introduce our panelists. We are pleased to have Dr. Kwong Chen from Australia.
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet
Hi,
you.
Thank you. I just said good morning, right, Dr. Kwong Chen?
Yes, good morning. It's 9:33 a.m. here in Brisbane.
Yeah, good morning. The second one is Huijuan from Singapore. Good morning.
Hi, morning, everyone. This is Huijuan greeting from Singapore in my cozy study room.
Cozy, yeah, yes, I love that. Okay, the Roxy Pong from London.
Hello, everyone. Hi.
Roxy, it's your 2 o'clock. I should say evening. No, it's your 1 o'clock now, right?
It's nearly, yeah, it's 12:30 midnight.
Oh, I should say.
So I should really say good night to everybody, but I'm ready.
Yeah. You should have a coffee tonight. It's going to be.
I've had 2 cups today already, don't worry.
Fourth one is Michael Liu from Taiwan. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Michael Liu from Taiwan.
It's amazing that technology has made it possible for us to meet on 4 different continents in real times. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, let's start with our first topic. I would like to hear from each of you about how your introduction and relationship to Fo Guangshan began. And can you share with us your memory of the first visit to temple? My first question for all the panelists is, what year did you first participate in Fo Guangshan events? So we all prepared this whiteboard here. So please write down what year, okay? Nothing to do with age. Okay, here we go. Okay, please, all the audience, you could interact with us as well. Tell us what year you participate in Fo Guangshan events as well. Let's see. I'm in 1993 and Roxy in 1993.
Wow,
Okay.
Jenny, I'm the millennium senior yacht here.
You are the baby youngest one. Let's see Kwong Chen. We're curious. Come on, Kwong. 1987, isn't that right? 1987? Wow. See, 1987. So I would say that nothing to do with the age, okay? So we are quite young. Okay, the second question I have is, what kind of events did you attend? What kind of event you attend first time? Okay. Okay, now I think everybody could read. My handwriting is quite study group. Dharma service. Okay, happy camp. Now we have to see what Kwong Chen say. Okay. So please, audience, you could join us as well. Oh, dancing. Oh, I can't really quite see, but I could see dancing. It's quite interesting. Dancing with a star. Wow, dancing with a star. Wow, this is quite interesting. So every panel has already shared that what kind of events they attend first time. And my third question is, do you remember how you felt at that time? I'm sure you're going to, how you felt at that time. Okay, how you feel that? Other audience, you could also tell us, on YouTube, how you feel at that times. Okay, let me see. Stress. Wow. Okay. You don't look like stress, but we have to find out what's your story. Okay, here we go. Good. Interesting. Thank you. Thank you, all the panelists. Okay, we're going to start with Kwong Chen. Could you share this? You wrote stress, so I'm sure there's a lot of story behind this.
Well, it was 1987, and the master came to Ipoh in Malaysia to give a Dharma talk, and I was supposed to be performing on the stage while during his Dharma talk. That's why I say dancing with the stars, because Grandmaster Xing is a star and Yun is cloud. So I said dancing with the stars. So I was really stressed because I have to dance in front of thousands of people. So yes, that's how I felt. And that's what I remembered.
Are you a good dancer?
I hope I am. Well, young people dancing, we don't dance or anything. We do classical cultural dance.
Classical culture. Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Huijuan.
You're most welcome.
Yes, I wrote groundbreaking ceremony of Singapore Fo Guangshan Temple. So why I was there, because I make a promise to be there, and I was really impressed by the, by the scale, by the number of people attended, and that was great. My first time seeing Master Xing Yin and so many Fo Guangshan venerable. But the second point that I had was pondering. I was thinking, is this the place? I'm asking myself, is this the place I can find my faith and life?
It sounds like you again seeking a place for faith. Is there a story about your search?
Yes, in fact, there was a story. I was brought up in a Taoism family. I studied in the Catholic convent school. At the age of 13 years old, my mom passed away. So of course, by nature, everything will be in a Taoism way. But however, I feel that something was not right there, but I was too young to pinpoint what was that. Coincidentally, my neighbor just returned from Hong Kong, brought me to a Buddhist temple in Singapore. Back then, no Fo Guangshan yet. So along the way, she was explaining to me the teachings of Buddhism, and I was thinking, oh, this is very logical, and it really makes sense to me. So since then, I started to read about Buddhism books on my own. And at the age of 20, I was starting to look for a Buddhist temple. I was in hope to find a temple where I can chant for my mother to help to liberate her from the suffering, at the same time to find inner peace on myself. So in 2004, I was brought up to Fo Guangshan Singapore. I signed up BLIA member, but to be very honest, I do not know who is Fo Guangshan in BLIA back then. But anyway, I'm glad I made a promise. I go back in 2005. But are you all curious where is my neighbor until now? Are you all curious?
Yeah, tell us.
Yes, now she's a venerable in Huijuan Shan. Venerable Miao Tan Fa Chi. She's now in Xingma Shi Temple. We reunited in 2005. But in fact, we do not recognize each other in 2005. And we get to so-called reunited 2 years later at her late mother, venerable late mother's funeral. And you can see that actually my faith has intertwined with Huijuan Shan when I'm age of 13 years old. And I'm very grateful to Venerable Miao Tan for introducing Buddhism to me. I was able to liberate my mom from the suffering. And also I find inner peace within myself through Huijuan Shan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an amazing story about the destiny and faith. And every condition was right for you to connect with the temple. And, you know, you so lucky have an important person, your auntie, at that time, and later become a venerable. What about you, Michael? You wrote that your first experience at temple is interesting. What was interesting?
I feel it was interesting because at first, I thought going to temples is just there for the Dharma functions or Chinese classes. And now I realized that going to temple can be a lot of fun too. And it was definitely a good change of pace because at first I thought I was going to temple to become a happy camper, but I turned out to be one of the counselors. But it was good because we helped to organize activities, which is both fun and with Buddhist teaching. And was really fulfilling and very good learning experience.
Mm-hmm. And Michael, your family immigrated to Australia when you were young. Was your family involved with temple?
Yes, because my parents felt that Chinese is very important for us, especially when we moved to Australia. And they found Zhongtian Chinese School and sent us there. And the venerable invited my mother to join the teaching staff when she found out that my mother used to be an elementary school teacher back in Taiwan. And because we didn't have that many friends or relatives when we first moved to Australia. So the temple became our go-to place during weekends or holidays. And I did meet a lot of new friends and we really felt like home. And I remember there was one time that when my parents and my older brother needed to go away for a few days. So my parents decided to ask Venerable to take my sister and myself in. And that was the first time that I got to experience life in temple. Well, it was great actually when I think of it right now. But of course, back in the days, I really wanted my freedom with my sister back home and like every other teenagers. And I said that it was great, wonderful, because only when staying in the temple, one can feel the inner peace and quiet and can really connect to yourself. So I'll ask everyone that don't be a visitor when coming to temple for events or Dharma functions. Stay for a few days. You'll feel the difference. Thank you.
Yeah. And I believe Dr. Kwong Chen and Michael, you guys know each other before, right?
Yes. When Dr.
we could say that Kwong Chen was like very happy when I asked the question.
Oh, well, I'll let Michael answer that. Michael.
Oh. Is there any quick behind?
That's a good question. Well, no, it was okay because when we were youth, Dr. Kwong Chen used to come to Brisbane, or when we went back to Taiwan, he used to give us Buddhist teachings. So I was the counselor for the Happy Campers back then, and Dr. Kwong Chen is more like my counselor in my young adult division in BLIA. Thank you.
Yeah.
I let Michael say that because I don't want myself to sound so old, like, you know, like, yeah, I used to be talking to them already, so I must be very old. I think one of the things that Michael said that is really, really important is our Grandmaster Xingyun always said that the temple, the centers are actually your home, place that you can come and stay. And when Michael mentioned that the Reverend babysitted him and his sister. I remember when I started my PhD in Brisbane, I was not able to get into the dormitory of the university because PhD intake happens throughout the year. You pretty much apply and start any time of the year. But then the university operates on semester. So I pretty much arrived in middle of the semester and I have no place to stay. And the Brisbane for Wangshan, which is at Logan, Zhongtianshi, they just took me in for I think at least 1.5, if not 2 months, while I wait for the dormitory vacancy to happen after semester change. So I guess I'm sure all our panelists and Jenny and everyone, we benefited so much from Changzhou, from the temple, from the order, from the grandmaster, and we would really struggle to know even where to start to express our gratitude and how much it has shaped and changed our life.
That's great. Yes, Dr. Chen, Kwong was right about that. We're going to move on to Roxy. Why did you come to temple, the Dharma service?
So actually, when I was younger, like most Chinese families here in London, we would spend most of our weekends, especially a Sunday morning, going to Chinatown, having dim sum, and that would be our regular Sunday sort of family activity. So one day, my grandmother told me that instead of going to dim sum, she wanted to go to find a temple. You can imagine my face then. I was kind of miserable and because of what my impression of what a temple would be like, compared to dim sum, I think at that time my choice probably would have been dim sum. But because my grandma didn't understand English, and I felt that it was only right that I would help her, to find the temple. So in a way, I treated myself like a Google Maps or something, just to help her get here. And so that was my main purpose, just to help my grandma and accompany her to coming to the temple. Because my image of a temple really, at the beginning, my impression of a temple wasn't that great because I think most Chinese families at home have a Guanyin or a Buddha statue. And we were often told, behave yourself, otherwise the Bodhisattva won't bless you or won't protect you. And I was curious, why would this Bodhisattva be in control of my life? So all of these bad impressions didn't make me really keen on going, but I did, to accompany her and take her to the temple. And then I can say, fortunately, maybe luckily, I stumbled across Dharma service, even though it wasn't happy camp like Michael, but I felt happy. I really did feel happy. Maybe it's odd, but it was probably because I saw lots of volunteers. I saw lots of people. Everybody was very busy, but and at that point, I didn't understand a word of Chinese. But I could feel that everybody had this mutual language, which was the smile on their face. And it made me, I was really curious as well. That's why I wrote curious, because I was curious why all these people were so happy here. And so that even though the Dharma service may be very serene, very solemn, but it still gave me this real sense of happiness and also a sense of belonging that I never thought I would have from my impression before. Yeah, so that sense of belonging, I suppose, is what the other panelists mentioned, feeling at home. And that's what really made me feel impressed by this place.
So you was only, how old were you at that time?
I was only 7.
It's only 7, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have to thank you. Your grandma brought you to the temple, actually.
Yeah, I know. I often think back to it and I think, I thought I was helping my grandma by being her mat, but really I reflect upon it now and I'm ever so grateful. I think rather than me helping her, it's definitely she helped me to find my faith, my life, my spiritual home, and let me understand that my misconception of, the Guanyin, the Bodhisattva, blessing me, etc. Now, it was only when I later went to read the master's book that I understood it wasn't these deities, these bodhisattvas that were in control of my life, and more so my own actions. And that's actually what attracted me to Buddhism and made me more interested and want to learn more and find out, because it was very logical, like Huijuan said, something that it made a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. Usually we don't understand why we learn things when we were young, like math and science. Learning Buddhism and Buddhism and faith is the same for most young people, but education is about planting seeds that hopefully to continue to grow during our lifetime. So my question is, what point in your life did the seeds of a faith start to grow? And what was the situation that inspired that growth? Let me ask all the panelists, were you a good student in school? That's we have a yes or no. Now I could say Kwong like, oh, okay. I think I should say yes. Oh, okay. I could say Kwong said no, and then Roxy said yes, and Huijuan say yes, and Michael say absolutely no. Okay, thank you. I love your hat, by the way. That's great. Okay, my second question is, did faith have any meaning to you at that time? So we're going to start writing down the key word that, did faith have any meaning to you at that time? Okay, I mean, in a young age, I'm sure it's still in learning process. Okay, are you guys ready? Okay, Michael said yes. Okay, we want to see your answer. Okay, it's guidance in life. Okay, question mark. Okay, good. They're of life or death. Oh, wow. Okay, and then Huijuan. We have to start with Roxy. Why did you write a question mark?
I think if you ask any 7-year-old
right,
what faith means to them at that time, it's probably, unless, there's some super kid, but otherwise, I think most people will give you this question mark. At that time, when I first went to the temple, it was, like I said, just to accompany my grandma. And then it was my curiosity that really made me then want to find out more. And even though, like I said in my answer before, yes, I was a very good student, and hence I was given lots of opportunities at school. I enjoyed going to school, but I still very much looked forward to my Sundays at the temple. I think it filled a very important and missing part of me, even though I had everything that I wanted at home and school was very good, but it's just this visit to the temple really filled in that missing part of me. So even though I didn't understand at that time what exactly faith meant to me, but I think it was that that missing part that first made me want to find out more. And it was only slowly when I began to read more, to really experience it, that I felt, wow, the importance and the power of faith in my life.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And I understand that you brought your grandmom to temple. I'm very curious, how did she know there was a temple in London?
It was actually just because lots of people were telling her that that there was a temple right in the city centre. If anybody, a bit of advertisement for London for Huijuan now, we are right in the city centre behind a very, very busy shopping street, Oxford Street. So if anybody comes to London, comes to visit Oxford Street, make sure you come and find us. We're only like 3 minutes away. But yeah, people were telling us there's just a temple there. And for most Chinese families, 20 years ago, it was very important to find their spiritual home, I guess. So it was just by word of mouth, and hence I helped her to find this place.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Michael, you mentioned that your entire family were lifelong devotee. And what was the point did faith become something personal to you?
Well, because I felt that I wrote guidance in life because, like the official answer is like, when we practice faith is like we practice the Buddha's way and try to achieve Buddha's mind. And that's all our goals. But for me, I remember that like Roxy, because I didn't start going to temple when I was at age of 14. I remember that we used to go to temple every weekend to attend the Dharma functions or a lot of activities like book clubs or like camps, etc. And then we even took turns coming back to Taiwan to attend Huijuan short-term monastic retreat because my parents thought it was a good chance for us to really learn about Buddhism. And since I really like staying at the temple, they might as well send me back and shave my head for a few days. And I feel the experience really helped to plant Bodhi seeds in myself. But of course, things never go well as we planted. When I went to university, I was in a relationship. And because I was young and inexperienced, I didn't really handle it so well. And it caused conflict between my relationship and my family. And like back then, of course, I chose relationship. So I was absent for most of family events, and which was mostly temple events that I was disappeared from. And somehow, even though when my relationship ended a few years later, I was still avoiding going to temple or any related activities until my friend became the president of Young Adult Division, Queensland. And since I was the one introducing him into the temple, so he insists to ask me to go back and help him throughout his terms as president. And also during that time of absence, my family was really supportive to me during that time, and they didn't give me a lot of pressure to drive me away, and instead they gave me a lot of space. So I was very fortunate to eventually come back to the big happy family, and that really made me feel the importance of practice the four givings our Master Xing Yun told us, to give other people faith, to give others joy, give others hope, and give others convenience. And only by giving what you have, one can accumulate a lot of positive affinities. And for myself, when I was lost along the path of my life, all the good affinities, like my friends and my family, and the Bodhi seed planted in me earlier really helped to bring me back onto the right track of my life, and it became a really guidance in my life. Thank you.
So the forgiving taught you something important lesson when you were young, and I'm sure your whole family really appreciate you back.
Welcome back.
Dr. Kwong Chen, I know that you wrote, no, you are not, you were not a good student. So I know you were a student in Nanhua University before that. Why did you choose to study abroad in Taiwan Nanhua University?
Okay, so I'll drag this question a little bit, because when I say the matter of life and death, when you ask, what does faith mean to us when we were young? Roxy, I went into short-term monastic retreat when I was 8 years old. So I attended Buddhist classes when I was 6. So this is dialing back to 1976. The reverend who ran the classes graduated from Foshan Monastic University, Chongling Xueyuan. She was the same year as Reverend Xin Ding. Ding He is the same year. So it was very long time ago. So I think at the age of 8, I knew that the planets are going to line together, the planets in the solar system in 1979. And the rumors on the newspaper is that all the planets is going to crush together and we're all going to be dead. So at the age of 8, I was totally horrified. And I learned from my Dharma classes that being a monastic has great merit to the people around you. Hence, for the matter of life and death, Michael, I shaved my head at the age of 8. So then where does Foshan comes in? Because that happened before there was Foshan in Ipoh. So actually, this never went away from me. Death and dying, why are we here? What is the point of life? What is the meaning of life? What does all this suffering means? Why is all these things happening? So as you mentioned, Jenny, at the age of 28, after I finished my medical training in Taiwan, I went to Nanhua University and studied life and death studies because it was the same question that I was asking myself throughout the whole time. Even though I was trained as a doctor, I remained to have that same question, like, what is this about? Patients are suffering. By treating their physical suffering, is that all? Is that all we could do? Is there more that we can do? So you can see the picture here was when I graduated from Nanhua. I'm supposed to be 31 years old in that picture. So I was really lucky that our Reverend Master came to our graduation ceremony. So I guess in a nutshell, the amazing thing that the Grandmaster did and the amazing thing that Fo Guangshan did was that they built this university. They established this platform where young people, back then I'm classified as young people, have the opportunity to not have to worry about anything else, but to pursue the burning question that's in their mind. Because I would not have been able to do my master degree without the master, because I can't do a master degree without the Grandmaster. Okay, the reason being, I have no money. I finished my medical degree. I told my dad I do not want to be a doctor. My dad said, you're on your own. And I have never been on my own for the past 28 years. I always receive handouts from my family. So, but I got a position into Nanhua University. And the Grandmaster decided back then to not take any tuition fees for the first 4 years of the establishment of Nanhua University, which allowed me to study free of charge. And that is how I was able to finish my master degree and then use that as the foundation for my PhD, and now teaching in a medical university in Australia. So everything is linked together. Everything is linked together. And in Fo Guangshan, the key thing is, as long as you embrace the opportunity that's being given to you, all sorts of amazing things would unfold from that, which is beyond your expectation and your imagination. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, that's an amazing story. So even at that time, Master Xingyi was helping an opportunity to many, many young students to get a higher education. A person like you, and I'm pretty sure like me as well. And as for Guangshan, education is really fundamental, and Temple continue to helping thousands of young people to get education today as well. Kwong Chen, I have another question for you. Is what was the circumstance that led you to cultivate that value of a faith during this period of time? And can you have sharing any story?
The situation is, well, I was thinking about this whole sharing this morning. Right. Life is full of suffering. It's not a new thing. Buddha Sakyamuni knew that. Life is full of suffering. Mm-hmm. The tricky part is majority of us do not want to look at the suffering part of life, or the suffering part of life is so overwhelming that we shut down and pretend that nothing is happening. Okay? So when you say, what is it? How does our faith play a role in my life? And how does it intertwine? Is because there's so much suffering in life. Even though, yes, I was born in a good family, got good education, this and that. But my mom is always sick. My father's factory of 800 employees burned down overnight when I was, I think I was like 10 or 12 years old. That's when it happened. And then they have to rebuild the whole factory. And all these things that happens in life is always challenging. And that is when you start to ask the question, what is going on? And the other thing that came to my mind was when I was in high school, I have very passionate classmates who is very determined about their faith. They think that they know exactly why it is the way it is. And it's very challenging because they keep asking you, so your Buddha, what does your Buddha do? Why do you still study that sutra? How is that sutra relevant? How is something 2,500 years ago? Why are you listening to an Indian guy? Buddha is an Indian, so why are you listening to him? You should follow my faith. My faith is so good. I went to our ceremony. I have this experience. So I was bombarded by that when I was in high school. But for me, it's very interesting because I have lived spiritual experience. I was a little monk when I was 8. I then went back to the monastic retreat when I was 14. So by the time when I was confronted at 17, I have the lived spiritual experience, but I do not know how to put it into words because I do not have the wordings and concept. I knew it's good. I benefit from it. I love it. I enjoy it. I don't mind waking up 4 in the morning and eating vegetables for 1 month. I love all of that, but I do not know how to put that in words. And that's when it came in, like what you say, Jenny, the education, the training, the books behind me, the Forefather Zhen Yi, the books that we just have our in international Buddhist exams on. Back then, those are just coming out. Those are just about to be available. And I just soak that up so that I can win in the debate with my classmate that my faith is also really good. And by the way, my faith do not go around criticizing anyone else because we respect what you decide to believe. So you leave me alone.
I love that.
Well, we don't know. Everything is cause and effect. If you join us, we are more than happy. The door is never closed. Come in, explore, enjoy the vegetarian food, ask difficult questions, ask hard questions. We love that because that's how our faith started. Because Buddha Sakyamuni asked the most fundamental, difficult question. Why are we alive? What does it happen when we die? What is this all about? We ask those questions. So if you're in for real deal, come, we will talk. But don't try to just impose whatever you think is on anyone because it is not respectful and is very disruptive. But anyway, on that note, I do thank my classmates because they are the one who really forced me to get my act together and not just continue my lived religious experience, but I have to put facts and arguments into it to make it more complete.
It's very impressive that when you were so young, you felt that connection with Buddhism though. It's like, I think we all the panelists, I'm sure you all have a friend that asks you a similar question, like what is your faith? And then why you believe in Buddhism? I'm sure, right? Yeah, but I think Kwong Chen is putting it very interesting that how you're dealing with that situation. It's very, very impressive. Thank you so much for sharing this. What about Huijuan? What about you?
Okay, just now I wrote this 3-point: confidence, perseverance, and reflection. But in fact, this is what I'm lacking before I joined Foguanshan. Okay, as mentioned, I signed myself as BLIA member, not knowing who is Foguanshan or BLIA. But at that time, I was about 23. I was very shy, quiet. In fact, you can say I'm introvert. So in fact, I was hesitating to call Foguanshan back, whether to go back to volunteer. Because when I signed up, I did promise to go back to volunteer when I finish my part-time night class, because my study comes in different phase. I in fact went to university at the age of 28. So I was thinking I should do because I make a promise. So what I did was, sounds silly. If you try to imagine what I did, I went to a Buddhist temple nearby my place, and I'll say, hey, Buddha, what should I do? Should I call back? So of course I said I left the temple. But before I leave the temple, I saw a book that caught my attention. And this is the book that actually I picked up at the counter, and I was trying to see who is the author, and I was shocked to see that it's Master Xing Yin and Foguanshan. Then I told myself, okay, I know the answer. So I called back quietly. I said, okay, I'm here to volunteer. So that is the reason why I volunteered in April 2005. And it was a 3-day event with Master Xing Yin back then. So after the event, I also being a bit brave that at that time, I tell myself, okay, I'm going for a solo 3 days, 2-night trip to Foguanshan, Taiwan, to know more about Foguanshan. I think at that age, nobody will do that. I think I'm just a bit different from others. But what left a very strong impression on me, and words cannot describe, was the visits to the history of museum. Okay, I went to the Foguanshan Museum, and that was the photo. I was 20 years old. When I graduated, I was 30 years old. So I went to the museum, I was very impressed by the dedication, the efforts that Master Xing Yun has actually put in the propagating the humanistic Buddhism. And one of the core values that Michael Dasson brought up was the forgiving, giving others confidence, hope, joy, and confidence. And confidence means a lot to me. After returning from Taiwan, I told myself, okay, I'm going to stay put in Fo-Guang-Shan. I'm not going anywhere. So I spent all my free time in Fo-Guang-Shan, volunteering, chanting, joining study group, involved in the youth camp. So just now, Dr. Kwong mentioned, when the opportunities comes, we have to grab. So in 2006, I was given an opportunity by Fo-Guang-Shan Singapore. And back then, Abbas was Venerable Manke Fa Shi, and the current Abbas, which is Miao Mu Fa Shi. So they say, okay, you take up the role as the YAT president. And I'm also very fortunate, aside from getting support from Fo-Guang-Shan and BLIA, I have actually my first two friends that guides me that I know in Fo-Guang-Shan along the way, which is Sister Huijuan and Major, which just now you saw in the photo in blue. So they are both senior YAT. They also is the first batch of YAT Singapore. I'm very grateful to them also because they guide me along the way throughout my learning journey in Fo-Guang-Shan. You know, being a president, you know we have to speak and talk. So I was forced to actually open myself up. That is where I gained my confidence. And you know that in Fo-Guang-Shan, we need to persevere when we do an event. So that is where I built my perseverance. And of course, the world is not beautiful, things go wrong. So I need to reflect what went wrong, what did I never do properly that actually never lead to a good, not so good outcome back then. So just to summarize, just to say, I find my faith and life in Fo-Guang-Shan through the practice of the forgiving. In fact, I didn't understand that actually I'm the one who benefit the most. We say we give to people, we say we give confidence, hope, joy, and convenience. But in fact, all these came back to us. It came back to us, it reciprocal back to us. So by practicing the forgiving, we are not only benefit ourselves, but we also benefit others. So I think that is the important essence of humanistic Buddhism. Yeah, Jenny, that is my story.
Thank you, thank you. So that people often misreject or the opportunity because it seems difficult or it involves a skill that you may not have. And it's easy to say no. And by getting involved, you can create a good cause to condition to improve yourself. Succeeding at something you have never done before can give you a new confidence, learning new skill, can connect with new people. I think that's very, very, very wonderful. And I'm just love to you guys sharing those wonderful story. By itself, faith, I'm sure everybody agree. By itself, faith is meaningless. True faith demands that we practice it in our daily lives. And now that you all have a great careers and some of already have a families that need to apply faith in your life becomes even more important. And it's a guide to our mindset at every moment. And Master Xing Yun told us that and remind ourselves, I am a Buddha. For us to remember to act as an awakened one. And how do you act as a Buddha? And how do you apply all of your faith and wisdom to your daily life? And let's hear from all of our panelists discuss how they handle their stress. I'm sure everyone all have different things to dealing with every day. That's writing on our whiteboard. It's some keyword, okay? And the first question I have is that, what is the most challenging part of your typical day and at work? Your day, work, and home, and those their lesson from the Dharma that help guide you through those moments. Okay, please write a little keyword. Yeah, I'm sure that everyone's job, family, like myself, I'm facing a lot of family, kids. That's things I need to dealing with every day. Okay, are you guys ready? Okay, let's see it. Okay, Michael wrote work, kids, BLIA. That's good. Okay, all the answer here. We're going to start with Dr. Kwong Chen. Quite interesting.
So I wrote down uncertainties, especially for the past 2 years because of COVID-19. That means nothing is certain. Everything is always changing. And I'm sure everyone have to live with that. As an educator, what happens is we don't know whether we're teaching face-to-face or online. Even like 2 weeks, actually this last week, we were running exams for the medical students. You just do not know, like if there is a case in the community, they could go in, the government could, in Australia, in Queensland, they could have a press conference at 10 a.m. and inform you that the lockdown is going to be imposed at 4 p.m. So if you have anything planned tomorrow that's going to be face-to-face, good luck to you. Okay, so that is one thing. And then for family side is because of COVID, I can't go home. I haven't been home in Malaysia for 2 years, and my father actually passed away this year in July in Malaysia in Ipoh. So the last time I saw him was 2019 December. So all these things are the things that we did not foresee. We did not know it was happening. And in this process, Buddhism is literally the lifesaver. It's the anchor, it's the lifesaver. So, okay, so the two things actually contradict each other, isn't it? The anchor brings you down, the lifesavers keep you floating. Okay, so, but it's a combination of the two is because it keeps you floating so that you're not overwhelmed and drowned by life, but it also keeps you grounded. It gives you perspective. It allows you to see things as it is and not being kidnapped or being hijacked by whatever emotions that comes around it. This relates to the quote that I'm to share at the very end, so I won't talk about that in that length details, but I'm just saying that being a Buddhist, by practicing Buddha Dharma and engaging with all the practice that's related to my faith, has really can't equip me any better for the challenges that we have for the past 2 years. So like the changes at work, the challenges at work, I'm always able to see that as an opportunity for me to reflect into myself, like what Roxy said, you know, dealing with people, including myself. So reflect into myself. And my faith is also the place where it allows me to sit with the grief of the death of my father, because he had a stroke on the 1st of July and he went on the 28th of July. I was not really able to communicate with him, but our faith, you know, the organization, Malaysia for Wang San, Australia for Wang San all around the world. I did a quick calculation. I got about 5 to 6 reverends sending me messages and said, Kwong, I knew that your father passed away. We've set up a prayer spot for him. So I can't travel, but my dad was traveling all around the world, picking whichever temple he wants to sit and then receive prayer from. So, and on the funeral, on the day of the funeral, we were not able to go there. It's all done online. And Malaysia for Wang San headquarters actually helped us with this whole process of going there with the camera, with the reverend, broadcasting my dad's funeral to us. So again, all of that, not just about the theory and the teaching, but the action that BLIA people, that Buddha-like people do is just beyond imagination, beyond description. In the most catastrophic, devastating situation, you still feel that forgive that Huijuan and Michael talked about. Giving of convenience, the giving of joy, the giving of faith, of confidence is just amazing to be supported by the community.
Thank you. So, Kwong Chen, I have another question for you. You just mentioned about this COVID situation. That how do you? I know you're teaching in the university. How do you teach your students to facing the challenging times?
The thing is that this is actually amazing is not the right word, but it is how I felt because I teach medical students. I've been involved in medical education since 2008. I've graduated over 1,000 medical doctors that's currently practicing in the world. And when we teach medical students, we always taught them about uncertainties. we always say to them that as a medical doctor, you do not know what's going to happen. You always have to be prepared. So my pedagogy, which is my methodology of teaching, incorporates a lot of Buddhist wisdom in there, like mindfulness, compassion, self-awareness, being able to be aware of where you're coming from. So we actually taught all of that already. And when COVID happened, those students that are in more senior years, they're able to actually use it. And I remember one of the students actually drew a poster, and in the poster, she drew mindfulness and there's medical school in the air because we're doing everything online. So she actually said mindfulness is this important thing to keep them afloat. And for the student that just started during COVID, we can then reinforce them about our teaching of uncertainty. So if we were to zoom out from what I did in medical education back to Buddhism, our faith, the whole teaching of our faith is about how to be with uncertainty. It's about how to manage impermanence. It's about how to face the chaos without any attachment of perception. That book that Huijuan showed just now, 金刚经讲话, the teaching of the Diamond Sutra. How are we able to attain the state of 无所住而生其心, where our awareness arises with no point of attachment of reference, so that we are so broadly open and not attached to any fixed angle and able to embrace and hold the chaos in hand, be present and continue to cultivate our compassion and our wisdom. That is what we are in for in Buddhism. It's not about how many things you chant, how many boxes you tick, how much whatever you do. It's about the ultimate wisdom, the paramita, and the application of it. Thank you, Jane.
Yeah, thank you. That's heard what you say. It's like we can't wait to hear more about what you talk about that Diamond Sutra. Thank you. Huijuan, we're going to move on to you. Could you share about what your story?
Yeah, my story, I wrote human relationship and family. So I think it's very close to what Roxy wrote, people. So it's about people. Okay, I'm actually working as a senior area sales manager in a German company. I'm responsible for China, Hong Kong, and South Korea market. Working in a multi-cultural environment, you know that it's a challenge because they think differently, they speak differently. And what I do is that I apply positive thinking and the 3 acts of goodness. In this case, where we all know, do good deeds, speak good words, and think good thoughts to deal with the daily challenge. Just to put it more into context, how I actually use it from a real case example that I faced a few months ago. A few months ago, I received an email from my colleague to say that, I'm sorry, from South America telling me that your goods from China will not be loaded. We cannot ship the goods. I was like, oh dear, this is very serious for us because it happened for the second time. So you can imagine I was actually very frustrated. I was very upset. And I faced the pressure from the customer chasing me. Okay, in this case, when my goods has arrived, if the goods don't arrive, we're going to have stock production. How are you going to compensate this thing? So I know that I need to do a good deed here. So the good deed is I have to make sure the goods ship out, my customer get the goods and can continue with their production. I was frustrated. But then in this case, I also need to speak good words to my colleague. I'm angry, but I still need to speak good words to them. So I tell them nicely, okay, can you tell me what's happening? So I also do my own homework as in to what else can I do? I do checking with the customers, with the local regulation, and I do all the checks. And then of course, in my heart, I hope that, okay, we must think positively. There's a Dharma, there's a way. Okay, I'm going to think good thoughts. The goods will go on time, it will arrive on time. So eventually the beauty is the goods did leave the South America, it did arrive in China, customer is happy. But of course, it seems like very simple, but in fact, the whole process took us 1 week. And you know that the stress that you'll be taking and you have to work around the clock with the Europe side, with the South America, with the China customers. But all in all, everyone is happy. But I think Dr. Kwong did mention, we also have to put others into different perspective. So you can see that throughout my career, I changed from a person who very not sociable to a person working in a lab to someone that can speak on stage. All this actually comes from Fo Guang Shan's training. And I think they help us to think things in a different perspective from other people's angle. And I think this is a very important skill set of to be more resilient to challenges. And that is the reason why I want my children to learn this. So my kids are enrolled in Ci Ai Incubator, operated by Fo Guang Shan. I also enroll them to Fo Guang Shan Dharma class to connect them with Fo Guang Shan and also get them to be part of the growing up with Fo Guang Shan with them. For example, we joined the recent one is the Global Buddhist exam and also the Fo Guang Ru, the Cao Jing. So in hope of doing that, I hope that they can grow up to be someone that is positive, confident, and individual with compassion. So I always tell the kids, Fo Guang Shan is our second home. Jenny, that's my story.
Thank you. So how old are your kids right now?
My kids, I have 2 boys and 1 girl. The elder one is 9 boy. Second one is also boy, 5, and the third one is a girl, 3 years old.
So I'm sorry. This question just popped in my mind. How do you teach that? You said about forgiving. How do you teach forgiving at home, though? You know, I know you're a little yes.
I always tell my kids, okay, if your classmate or yourself, you have to build a confidence. If you make a mistake, it's okay. We try again. So when we did something not right or whatsoever, I will ask my kid to say that, okay, we can do better next time. And we also don't inconvenience others. So if you need to do what you need to do, like getting up on time. So my elder boy, he can get up on time himself, brush his own teeth, everything, get ready and go. So I think that is important that I will set them on a pattern in the sense that they know what they need to do and they have to think of others when they are doing something or an action. That is what I thought. You know, but kids nowadays not easy to teach. But I think we just have to give constant reminder.
Right. And your husband is the same thing that you guys met each other in a temple, right? He's our member as well.
Yes, we actually met on Christmas Day. So Christmas, a different meaning for us. We met on Christmas Day at the Yiru Changwan Day meditation. So at the end of the event, I told him, hey, tomorrow we have a yacht gathering. Please join us at the gathering. And that is how we know each other.
Yes, it's talk about faith and legacy. That's great. Thank you for sharing. And I totally understand that reducing the stress it's very important, and you don't want to bring the stress from one situation to another. Roxy, what about you? I know that you wrote people, and I know you are working at temple now. And do you find that there is a stress even in your working at temple?
So when I wrote people, I specifically wrote including myself, because I think wherever we go, we face people. But probably the biggest challenge in life is probably the self, the ego, how to really let that go. Because I think in the temple, being full-time, I work full-time at the temple now, every day is different. And a bit like Dr. Kwong said, maybe it's also the fear of the uncertainties, the unknown, not really knowing what to expect every day, because every day, different tasks, different roles. 1 minute I'm a translator, next minute I'm teaching classes, next minute I'm representing at conferences, next minute even sweeping the floor, so many different tasks, different roles. But as the Venerable Master told us, what's important is that we play our role and act well. And if we're able to, in each role, play our role well and act well, then we will remember that we are here for a purpose. We are here to benefit other sentient beings, not just to fulfill our own needs. So when we have that in our minds, then actually we no longer need to fear these uncertainties or the unexpected. In fact, we can transform these unexpected into inspiration as we cherish and embrace every cause and condition, an opportunity for us to learn ourselves, develop ourselves, but also to create affinities with other people, which is so core in our Buddhist practice. when I look back at these challenges that I'm talking about for the self, when even all these different tasks that I'm doing, when I think of them as a challenge, it's actually because I'm afraid how I'm doing in today's translation, how am I going to do in today's presentation, and what people will think of what I've done. And so it's this attachment to the ego really that probably is the biggest challenge, and not the actual task itself. As you can see, there are so many different tasks, so many different things to do, but really all of these are to enable us to propagate the Dharma, to let even more people hear about the Dharma. And so if we can put the focus on this at the task at hand, the objective of the task, then really the self can be put aside, and then we will realize that this no longer is a challenge. So that's the part on the self. But then going back to people, as we are amongst people every day, facing the society, especially in the temple, everybody that comes in is different. I remember before I started working at the temple, when I was in my previous job, I'd put a little Buddha statue on my desk. And so every time I received a phone call and it was the complaining client or an irritating colleague that had what I would consider unreasonable or irrational requests, I would look at the little Buddha statue on my desk and remind myself, they are a Buddha, they are a Buddha, they are a Buddha, and try to maybe at that time suppress my anger or try not to show my anger over the phone or even in person. And so when I decided to come and work at the temple, it should be easier because it's not just one Buddha statue on my table. I mean, I'm surrounded by Buddha statues. I'm currently in the temple, so you can see I'm surrounded by sutras. I'm surrounded by the triple gem every day. So theoretically, I wouldn't need that little Buddha on my table to remind me, they are a Buddha, they are a Buddha. But, and maybe, thinking coming to the temple, everybody should be a Buddha. But the temple is still within this Saha world, and everybody that comes in the doors come from all walks of life. And I really learned that it's a change of my mindset rather than expecting other people to change. If I go back to when I was younger, when I first came to the temple, I remember actually very clearly that I read an article the master wrote about respect and tolerance. And at that time, not long after reading that article, I got all the words, a little bit different to Dr. Kwong, where he actually had the experience and then tried to find the words. I first found the words and then realized it in practice. And I was on the receiving end at this point where we had a bazaar, like an event where we had lots of different stalls. And the Venerable said to me, Roxy, and now I think I was about 10 maybe. And she said, you can be in charge of this game stall. And, I was in charge of this whole stall by myself. Can you imagine a 10-year-old? And then the stall next to me was my mum, who was selling food. And so that was a real show of respect, equality, and tolerance maybe, because obviously as a 10-year-old, probably making lots of mistakes, but there was no differentiation. So if I was receiving that, no differentiation from the venerables, from the volunteers at Huijuan, that's really the attitude that I should then continue to spread onwards. So not only receiving that from Huijuan, but even from the Buddha, if we think back to the Buddha's teachings, every one of us humans have lots of inadequacies. We're incompetent in many, many ways. But the Buddha had the strongest faith in all of us. In his eyes, we were the same as him. We are the same as him. So if the Buddha could have such faith in us, I believe we should continue this faith and believe in every sentient being to become a Buddha. So it was really my change in the mindset, and not just, of course, there are challenges in the temple and it's the people, but it's how we view them. And I think, like I was saying, because I have so many different things to do here, and they're not necessarily my profession as such. I didn't study to become a translator. I didn't study I studied sociology. So none of these roles that I mentioned that I do here actually link to my actual studies. However, it's like the other panelists mentioned, embracing the opportunities that we're given in Huijuan. And once you embrace them, the world really is ours. Everything, you are given all the opportunities. And when we talk about the Dharma, often, like I was saying before, I actually first learn the words and then put them into practice. And on the receiving end, receiving these teachings and receiving how people apply them, and then I can feel them. But then I really realized, especially one day when I was translating, I remember a talk, I was doing an interpretation on talk on the 6 perfections, the 6 parameters. And all of these were words at that time. I was researching, studying, make sure I got the words right, make sure that I was expressing it correctly so people could understand. And it was just suddenly I clicked at that moment. These are not just words. The Dharma is not just to be taught or listened to, in fact. It is the process of listening, contemplating, and then putting them into practice. And at that point, I realized just by preparing this, just by this talk that I'm interpreting at the moment, I am practicing these 6 perfections, but just not knowing. And that's what's so cool. You know, I was thinking, wow, I'm here talking about giving, morality, patience, perseverance, meditative concentration, wisdom. All of these seemed like terms, but I was actually practicing it there and then. You know, I was giving the Dharma to the English listeners. I was practicing morality and precepts by staying loyal to the speaker, and then patience, not just patience to fully listen to the speaker, and also patience for myself when I was maybe getting a little bit wrong or couldn't find the right word. Having that patience for myself also very important. And then perseverance. I don't know if anybody else has translation or interpretation experience, but it can be quite lonely, and so this perseverance to not give up is also very key, because I think it's very difficult. And then meditative concentration, of course, full focus at that time. Nothing else matters but listening, processing, and then presenting it in English. And then finally, of course, prajna wisdom, which is what we are interpreting is the Dharma, not just any worldly talk, but the Dharma. So of course we are absorbing, taking in the Dharma, but also sharing the Dharma with others. So it's really the whole part of faith has become my life. You know, it's not just speaking the words; it's really been absorbed and then practiced, but not even directly knowing. That's probably what's so important, I think.
Wow. Yeah, I love what you say, that working in a temple and how it can be a great opportunity. Like we could see how much you grow and to change your mindset, and it's really giving the situation as a stressful, or it can be opportunity to perfect yourself. So that's great. Michael, I know that you wrote BLIA work on kids, right? And Huijuan and I, we all have the same situation dealing with the BLIA work and balancing work and professional work and kids. And it's quite difficult, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
It's a challenge.
It is a challenge, yes. I know that today's forums, we all send our kids to a babysit. So we could have a quiet moment, like Huijun said, I'm about to send my kids to babysit. Yeah, I'm doing the same thing, actually. I'm sure Michael is the same thing. Send the kids away and we could have a quiet times. Yeah, and we want to hear, how do you deal with that every day?
Thank you, Jenny. I think my approach is to combining them together. My work, kids, and BLIA, my faith. And like Huijuan said earlier, it's great to teach kids the 3 acts of goodness. And then like Roxy mentioned earlier, like how we can surround ourselves with people with our similar faith and very strong faith, and our surround ourselves with good people, because it's like not just us affecting them, but they're also affecting us as well. Like when I always teach my kids or tell them what to do, I always try to remind them, you have to act like the 3 acts of goodness. And then when I raise my voice a little bit, or when I've been a little too judgmental, they'll come back to remind me, say, there, you gotta act you got to do the 3F of goodness. I say, I'm doing it. I'm telling you what to do the right thing. But then they say, you got to have compassion. I say, okay. So instead of sending them to Buddha's altar in our home for time out, instead of having them standing, I say, okay, you just sit there and connect with Buddha, and then I'll try to penalize them in a better way. But anyway, how I try to combine faith with work is like we're very fortunate that when our office building was completed in Shanghai, and we were fortunate to invite Master Xingyun to host the purifying ceremony. And then we have a little meditation room at a rooftop of our building. So we have the chanting service every day before our work. So all our colleagues can go there and do a little morning chanting, and then really help everyone to have a clear mind before starting the day. And then, because Reverend Venerable always teaches the 3 acts of goodness, and I think it really helped not just me, but everyone working around me to get onto the noble act path. And then whatever we do, we'll ask ourselves, are we doing the good thing, or are we doing what the Buddha is doing? And as a company, of course, we got to make profit, and we need to make a lot of money. But the Buddha's teaching is we need to earn pure wealth. So I think for that, it's a very good guideline for us, for myself and my colleague, when we face choices into work or like challenges when facing our clients. And during my years of working in exciting city like Shanghai, like we saw in the picture earlier, like all the high-rise and exciting life, I found that taking the 5 precepts, like what we all Buddhists should be doing, but actually what everyone should be doing, taking the 5 precepts, because this really helped me to stay on the good side. And occasionally I do break rules like here and there, but after that I always like 忏悔, and I think it really helped to bring me back on the right track. And I feel that when having faith also helped my parents to feel more comfortable, knowing that even though I'm out in an exciting city, a happy city, I won't go overwhelmed, and I'll be in the good hands on my own. So faith really helped me to connect with my parents as well. And when I start my family and have children on my own, my wife and I both felt that Buddhism is one of the best teaching that we can give our children. And humanistic Buddhism, like we've always mentioned quite a few times earlier, the 3 good deeds or 4 givings are very easy concepts for little kids to learn and practice. And in fact, they're practicing right now because it's still quite early, so they're just waking up. So didn't have time to send them to babysitters, but they are just playing quietly behind the TV wall. So right now they're practicing the 3 acts of goodness to have the daddy to go through the seminar another 20 minutes, hopefully, with quiet. And we also always, when we go to temple, we always go to temples when we attend events or Dharma functions. We'll always take our kids with us, and they do participate with joy. And yes, like they don't have like the wholesome roots like Dr. Kwong Chen or Roxy to be very curious and be very motivated. They occasionally fall asleep during Dharma service, but we're very fortunate that the venerables and others are very forgiving. And like there's an old saying that it's better to sleep in the big temples than to do other things. And also, I think throughout all the time and practice, having faith really helped to give myself and my family courage when facing fears or challenges. And an example is like few months ago, my 6-year-old boy need to have an appendicitis surgery And we didn't learn that until we arrived at the hospital to check up. So they said, okay, we check in and have the surgery right away. So the tears was coming down on my Brandon's cheek, and then because he was scared, right? He never know, like he can take needles, but like going to surgery is like first time. So like, he was like crying quietly. But after we chant the medicine Buddha's mantra, he was able to calm down and accept that, you know, the operation will help him to become healthy again. And then, so he became a brave little boy going into a surgery room. And then he was happy to knowing that he's bringing Buddha into the operation room with him. And it really gave him a lot of courage and comfort. And also, normally we encourage our kids to meditate a little bit before bedtime, because we got to calm down the boys before they go into bed. And then all this habit also help him throughout his time at the hospital to help him to sleep, rest well, and then recover very soon. So we were out of the hospital within 2 days. We were quite fortunate. So to me, Buddhism isn't the just a great guidance in my life, but it is now also a core value in our family. Thank you.
That's great. It is important for kids to feel a sense of belonging to temple, like it's their home as well. And you know, I know your parents brought you and your sibling to temple, and now you are bringing your kids to temple. It is a great example. It's a legacy as well. So what, you know, now we all the panelists been sharing all their story. I have a one question from the audience from Vancouver. This question actually is for Michael. Okay, what would you have differently in your teenagers years if you knew faith was going to make such an impact on your adult life? That's for you, Michael. So that means that faith, if you knew that faith was going to make such an impact on your adult life, how do you make it differently?
I think I would be more aggressive and accepting, and to really practice Buddhism earlier, because I felt that I was running away from during my teenage years. I said, okay, my parents take me to do that. And it feels like it's given to me. So I didn't really treasure it, and I can run away from all the responsibilities as much as I could. So, but now when I reconnect with my faith, and I've realized that I learn a lot, and especially when I have my children, I feel like how challenging it is for parents, or how important it is to pass down our faith into our next generation. So I think faith really helped me a lot when we really connect with it. So I think if I knew how much big impact it will give me when I grow up, I think I will be study harder. So so I benefit earlier in my life. Yeah. Thank you.
I think we all feel the same way, right? If I knew that earlier that it will impact that much, I'm sure it would be different mindset at that time.
Yes, and definitely.
This question is really for Dr. Kwong Chen now. Okay, in response to COVID, what is more important to you today compared to 19 months ago before COVID?
It's a very interesting question because since I mentioned earlier, I did my master's degree in life and death studies in 2001. I graduated. So I'm known as a thanatologist. Thanatos is the god of death. So a thanatologist is a death scholar. Mm-hmm. So I pretty much lived my life that way for nearly 20 years. That a constant contemplation of death and dying and impermanence. So I have to say that nothing has really changed drastically in my life for the past 19 months because of COVID, because like, for instance, my dad died in July. I said goodbye to my dad in 2004. You know, after I did my master's degree, I knew that I was coming to Australia to study. I remember I was sitting with him in the living room. I was crying at him. I said, Dad, I have to go to study my PhD in Australia. And because I'm so far away and their holidays are different, I probably might not be here when you die. And I want you to know that I love you. I thank you for everything. Please look after yourself. And that was 17 years ago. It took him 17 years to then passed away, but I said my goodbye in 2004. And being a thanatologist, we're also involved in palliative care. In palliative care, the 4 things that we encourage everyone to say, no matter their terminal patient or family, is thank you, sorry, I love you, and goodbye. So you thanks, you express if there's anything that you've done wrong, and you express your feelings and your love to the loved ones, and then you say goodbye. So I practiced that for the past 20 years in every encounter. I was still taken back a bit surprised, you know, the fact that I used to travel like up to 70 to 80 days a year around the world, okay? And I've been grounded for 2 years. And people would say, oh, do you feel hard to adjust to it? I'm really sorry to disappoint you. I'm actually doing quite okay. You know, like the fact that I didn't have to fly around the world, it didn't have such a huge impact because we're now meeting online, and I'm sure all the panelists have the same experience as I am at this point regarding this. It's so good to see other practitioners and how they're applying Buddha Dharma in their everyday practice. So I would go a step further and say that we vaccinize ourselves against COVID, okay? Buddhism vaccinates you against all challenges in life, okay? So your COVID vaccination, you know, they're talking about topping up, you know, what if there's a new pandemic and everything, you know, you continue to have to develop it and manage it. You know what? If you become a Buddhist, if you get vaccinated by Buddhism, this is lifelong, man. It's lifelong protection against all challenges, not to mean that bad things doesn't happen to you, but when it happens, you have that immunity, you have the resilience, you have the ability, you have the tools, and you have the community behind you to soldier on, to fight the challenges, to face the things that you have to face, and then grow and learn from that. So the past 19 months has been really challenging. I can't see how I would do anything differently, because as a Buddhist, we are aware of impermanence. We live every day as if that it is the last day. We live every moment as if that it is the last moment. We choose the last moment. Like, for instance, this gathering will finish in less than 8 minutes. And we had a great time, but it will not happen again in this format. It might happen in other ways, but this is it. So, you know, have your ears wide open and listen to whatever you want to listen to, because you only got 7 minutes left.
Yeah, I love you mentioned about community, because as a Buddhists, we, especially in Huijuan, we have such a strong community to bonding us all together, especially go through this period of times. And this is quite appreciative and quite wonderful. It's like we have a couple questions more, but I think we have 7 minutes that we just only could take a one question, okay? And this question actually for Huijuan that we have a question from one of the Radiant subchapter that they want to know balancing. How do you balancing between work and family and temple? And it's quite difficult. And then Michael just mentioned experience. Can you also share of your experience?
Okay. I think my planning for the kids is that I will tell the kids, okay, Saturday, Sunday, mommy may have to go to the temple. Okay, so because they also have the Dharma class, so I will make sure that I will get this done with support. Of course, I'm fortunate to have a supportive husband who is also Huijuan member, BRA member. So I think he will back up me. As my job needs to travel, so I will also tell the kids, mommy have to go forward, but I will try to talk to them every night. So I will always prepare them that mommy has to do something and why I need to do something. And next time when you grow up, you can also, I tell them, you can wear the vest that mommy is wearing. When you grow up, you have to be a BLIA member. So I think the balancing of the time management is also a good training for us to set your things on priority and what's important to be done. Everything has to be fall in place that they have been taken care. They will not, as long as they don't feel neglected because you are busy with work and BLIA, I think the children are also very supportive and they will always like to go for Guanshan. Like my kids always say, I want to go and find Shifu. Yeah, of course, go Shifu. Shifu give some food as children. So I think they're looking forward to it. When the kids are looking forward, they understand what you're doing. All will actually fall in place.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, thank you. And a last question for Roxy. Okay, this question is from from North America. Yeah, they want to know: have you ever thought about you want to go back to work?
Actually, I describe my work now not really as work. And so who would want to go back to work where you actually feel like you're working? I think that's the answer. When I wake up, I'm just to relate to Dr. Kwong Chan's sharing about COVID. I actually spent since last March staying at the temple. So Michael, don't worry if your kids sleep in the service, because I think sleeping in the temple is a good way to start. So, yeah, I've spent since last March, March 2020, I've been staying in the temple. Originally, I came in just when it was the start of the pandemic, and I thought I'll bring a little suitcase. I'll stay here rather than traveling on the train every day to avoid spreading the virus. But my little suitcase has lasted me these nearly 2 years now. And when I wake up every day, I really don't feel like I'm going to work. There's no, especially now that I'm staying here, of course, there's no start and end time. Obviously, look at the time I'm ending today. It's in the middle of the night. It's no longer today. It's tomorrow for me. It's nearly 2 a.m. in the morning. But because when I wake up, you feel a sense of mission. You feel, what can I do to help people today? What do the people need? And so you don't really feel like you're going to work. In fact, you feel very fulfilled every day. So to put it back very simply, no, because I wouldn't want to go back to work where I feel like I'm actually working. I'd prefer to do something that's very meaningful and valuable to me, which no job outside, I think, could fulfill.
Thank you. That's great. We have heard from all of the panelists. So practicing humanistic Buddhism is really simple. Always be mindful and willing to change your mindset. In closing, we need to remember that where there is a Dharma, there is a way. And I'm sure we each have another quote that resonates within us. And I would like to ask each panelist to please share a quote from Venerable Master Xing that has made the greatest impact on you. Let's start with Huijuan.
Okay, Master Xing has written many phrases and quotes that we can learn and practice from. And I actually choose the one that I think we will show on the PowerPoint because it's actually close to my heart, whether I face good or bad time. I always remember this quote because it can be translated into action and put into practice. Be grateful to the human world, cultivate diligence and frugality, be content with what you or we have, and practice generosity.
Thank you.
And everyone can practice from it.
Thank you. Michael.
Yes, just first to go back to the question is that also referring to what Dr. Kwong Chen said, we have to seize the moment and let's be more diligent because we've really encountered with a really great faith. So when we be more diligent and 10 years or 20 years down the road, when we look back, we don't have no regrets. And I want to share the Master Xing Yun's quote is, I'm among the multitude, and among the multitude, there I am. When I understand that, I can apply the philosophy of being second in my life and really learn to put others before me. And to me, that's the key to happiness and definitely the essence of practicing Buddhism. Thank you all and wish you all boundless merits and wisdom.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Roxy.
So Jenny, I think you've asked me many questions today, but this is probably the most difficult question to answer because throughout my life up until now, I think the Venerable Master's words are very, very wise. And at different times of my life, I've always managed to open a book and find his wisdom so applicable to my life. So rather than any words, I think it's the Venerable Master himself. His actions, the way he is, his spirit, is actually him himself that it actually resonates the most with me. That's most inspiring to me. But if you really, made me have to say something, I suppose it's his life of 300 years. And in these 300 years, he's always giving. I think that's something all the panelists mentioned, his spirit of the four givings. He's always willing to give. And that is something I think I'm always learning from, how I can give more to other people. Maybe I can't live 300 years, but I'll work as much as I can to try and reach as close as I can. But it's the Master himself, I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Roxy. Kwong Chen, what about you?
So I agree with Roxy. The Master has inspired us in so many ways. And the reason that when I was asked to pick a quote is because in November, we actually have a seminar on humanistic Buddhism in Nantian Institute. So it's going to be, Institute of Higher Education is going to be online. And I did my presentation around one of the Master's quote is to have self-awareness and practice the Buddha's way. The reason that I picked that is because the Grandmaster actually announced this as one of the keynote speech of a Buddha Light International meeting that is way back in 2004. It's not until, this has been 17 years, not until when I look at it and contemplate on how I do medical education, that is constantly what I told the students and myself, that life is a journey of self-awareness, and only through self-reflection, you will be able to be aware of what you have done and how you would want to do it differently. And as a Buddhist, we have to have the Buddha's way to guide us in what we do. So eventually you would realize that your mind, your inner dialogue, is the most fascinating book that you will ever need to read, because guidance are already out there. The important thing is actually to understand yourself, how you respond to the world, and try not to react, and allows the Buddha's way to guide you with the application of continuous self-awareness. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing. We have come to the end of our discussion, our forums. The faith is practice gives us a chance when we're facing the difficulty in life. Always believe in yourself. Anything is possible. Master Xing Yin has said, only with the faith can life be whole and complete. Only with the faith and spirituality and goal be sure. It is only through faith that transcendence and greater self be found. Only in this way can we succeed in the future. Thank you to all of the panelists, all those amazing, wonderful stories. I hope that their story inspire you to let faith be a guide, an important part of your daily life. Thank you all join us today. Thank you all the panelists again. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Jenny Chen, and our speakers for today's talk on My Faith, My Life. From your experience, we learned that with faith, life will have a goal and the direction towards it. Many thanks to our members and audience for joining us on our live stream. We'd like to highlight some of our upcoming events. Our next English Cloud lecture will be on December 18th. Venerable Huijuan, the abbot of Foguangshan Xilai Temple and Deputy Secretary of BLIA North America Western Regions, will be talking about the practice of humanistic Buddhism in life, from applying the Dharma to being the Dharma. Our next Chinese Cloud lecture will be on October 31st. The title of this lecture is 云水欧洲观世界, given by Venerable Chen, the abbess of Foguangshan Europe and the director of Foguangshan International Supervisory Council. Thank you once again for your participation. Sincere thanks to our special guests for bringing such meaningful conversations. We hope you the best for you and success in your future. See you in our next event.